Most people spend decades planning for retirement. The savings rate, the 401k contributions, the Social Security strategy, the investment allocation. They run spreadsheets, they meet with advisors, they think about everything. And then they pick their retirement date by circling a random Friday on the calendar because it feels like a clean stopping point. Here's what that random Friday can cost you. Depending on which month you retire, you could lose thousands of dollars in unused leave payouts, trigger Medicare premium surcharges that follow you for 2 full years,
create a healthcare coverage gap that costs more than a month of your mortgage, owe significantly more in income taxes on your first year of retirement income, or miss a pension milestone by 30 days that would have increased your monthly check for the rest of your life. The best month to retire and the worst month to retire can be separated by $10,000 or more in real, avoidable losses. And almost nobody talks about this because it's not as exciting as picking stocks or calculating your safe withdrawal rate. But it might be the highest dollar retirement planning decision most people never make intentionally.
My name is Eric, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, retirement planning, and the financial details that quietly cost people thousands at the exact moment they can least afford to lose it. If you're within 5 years of retirement, or you know someone who is, subscribe and give this a thumbs up. This one is genuinely going to save people money.
Let's start by establishing exactly how many financial variables your retirement date actually touches, because the list is longer than most people realize. Your retirement month affects when your pension or annuity payments begin and how long the income gap lasts before they do, how much unused annual leave you get paid out as a lump sum, whether you get credit for a full final pay period or lose accrued benefits by retiring 1 week too early, your total taxable income for your final working year, which then determines your Medicare premiums 2 years later through a mechanism called IRMA. Whether you face a healthcare coverage gap between your employer plan ending and Medicare beginning. And if you're claiming Social Security, the month you file affects your first payment timing, and in some cases, the amount. Roughly 60% of retirees regret not planning their retirement timing more carefully. Not their savings rate, not their investment choices, their timing. The calendar decision that most people treat as an afterthought is the one that more than half of retirees wish they'd thought harder about. Let's go through the winners first, and the specific reasons each one works. December, the gold standard for most private sector retirees. December retirement, specifically December 31st, wins for the broadest category of American workers for 3 compounding reasons simultaneously. First, income timing. If you retire December 31st, your final year of work income is maximized. You received a full year of salary. But your first year of retirement income starts January 1st, meaning your lower income retirement year begins fresh with a clean tax slate. Retiring in the wrong month can increase the taxation of Social Security later and affect Medicare premiums, or reduce flexibility for Roth conversions. December retirement avoids all of this by creating the cleanest possible boundary between high-income working years and lower-income retirement years. Second, your employer health coverage typically runs through December 31st, and Medicare enrollment for January 1st coverage requires filing by December 7th, meaning a December retirement gives you the smoothest possible healthcare transition with 0 coverage gap, 0 COBRA cost, and no scramble for marketplace insurance. Third, for anyone with an employer 401k match, December retirement means you captured the full year's match before leaving. Retiring in February means you left 10 months of potential employer contributions behind. January, the sleeper pick for tax-sensitive retirees. A February retirement that shifts 2 paychecks out of the calendar year can keep you under a Medicare premium surcharge threshold or free up headroom for a Roth conversion. A January retirement works similarly. Your final working paychecks land in December of the prior year. Your full retirement year starts immediately in January with the lowest possible income. And if you're close to an IRMA threshold, the income level that triggers higher Medicare premiums, starting retirement in January gives you a full 12-month runway to demonstrate lower income before that surcharge calculation kicks in. For federal employees specifically, December 31st and January 10th are the 2 most valuable dates in the calendar. The two dates that allow federal employees to accumulate maximum annual leave payout and allow for the best tax situation in the first year of retirement are January 31st and December 31st. January 10th, 2026 is the end of the 2025 leave year and a pay period, ideal for maximizing annual leave payout. Here's the specific mechanics. Federal employees can only carry over 240 hours of annual leave into a new leave year. If you retire just before the new leave year begins, you receive a lump sum cash payment for all unused annual leave, including hours above the carryover cap that would otherwise be forfeited.
That payout can easily run $5,000 to $15,000, depending on your pay grade and accumulated hours. Retiring 1 week after the leave year resets means you forfeited those hours entirely. October 31st is described as the year's best date for many federal employees. It's the end of both the month and a pay period, meaning the pension begins November 1st with no income gap, full leave accrual is captured, and the retirement paperwork clears before the December-January end-of-year processing backlog at OPM. May 31st. The best mid-year option for both federal and private sector retirees. May 31st hits the sweet spot for mid-year retirees. It's the end of both the month and a pay period. Pension starts June 1st, full leave accrual for the final period is captured, and income gaps are avoided. For private sector workers, retiring May 31st means you've received 5 months of salary in your final working year, limiting the tax bite from your final partial year of income, while beginning a clean summer retirement with Medicare coverage beginning June 1st if you're 65, or with enough runway to arrange coverage if you're not. The worst months to retire? Now the ones to avoid, and the specific dollar-denominated reasons why. February and March, the most expensive mistakes for federal employees. For federal employees, retiring mid-month creates a gap between the final government paycheck and the first annuity check. But retiring in February or March compounds this with 2 additional problems. First, you've just reset the leave year in January, meaning any unused leave above the carryover cap was already forfeited at the start of the year, and you haven't been accumulating new leave long enough to rebuild a significant payout. Second, you're retiring early in the calendar year with a full year of income ahead that you're now not going to earn, which sounds fine until you realize that partial year income creates complex tax situations for that year's return without the simplicity of a clean December 31st cutoff. Any month that creates a Medicare coverage gap, especially for early retirees. This is the most universally dangerous category, and it applies to anyone retiring before age 65. If you are retiring before Medicare, the month you leave work matters enormously. You need to know, does employer coverage end immediately, at month end, or later? A retirement date that looks fine on paper can become much less attractive if it creates an expensive insurance gap or forces rushed coverage decisions. Here's the specific trap. If you retire on the 15th of a month and your employer coverage ends immediately on your last day of work, you face a 2-week gap before the first of the following month when a marketplace plan would begin. 2 weeks of uninsured time for a healthy person is a manageable risk. 2 weeks of uninsured time for someone with a chronic condition or anyone over 60 is a potential 5-figure catastrophe. The fix is to always retire at month end, so any replacement coverage begins on the 1st, but only if you've confirmed your specific employer's coverage termination rules in advance. The year that triggers IRMA, which can follow you for 2 years. In 2026, Medicare's IRMA surcharge applies if you make more than $109,000 as a single filer or $218,000 as a joint filer. The surcharge is calculated on income from 2 years earlier, so a high-earning final work year can trigger higher Medicare premiums well after you've already retired and your income has dropped. This is one of the most insidious retirement timing traps because it's invisible at the moment of the decision. You retire in June of a high-income year feeling great. Then in 2028, Medicare bills you at the surcharge rate based on your 2026 income, the year you were still working for 6 months, and you're paying premium rates for coverage on a fixed retirement income. Filing Form SSA 44 promptly after retiring can prevent months of overpaying for coverage based on outdated income. But knowing to do that requires knowing the trap exists in the first place. Here's the practical framework.
3 questions that force the right timing decision for your specific situation. Question 1. When does my employer health coverage end, and when does my replacement coverage begin? This is the non-negotiable starting point. Map the exact coverage transition before you pick any date. If you're 65, confirm your Medicare Part B enrollment window. If you're under 65, price out COBRA versus a marketplace plan versus a spouse's employer coverage, and build the coverage start date backward from your desired retirement month. Coordinate your retirement month with your employer health plan cutoff to avoid an unintended COBRA bill or a gap before Medicare takes effect, and build those enrollment windows into your cash flow plan.
Question 2. What does my income look like in my final working year versus my first retirement year? And does the timing affect my tax bracket or Medicare surcharge? Run your expected income for both years. If retiring in December keeps you under an IRMA threshold that June retirement would push you over, that difference is worth knowing before you book the going away party. If you have deferred compensation, stock options, or a pension lump sum decision, the year in which those land can matter enormously for your effective tax rate. Retiring in the wrong month could increase taxation of Social Security later, affect Medicare premiums, or reduce flexibility for Roth conversions. Question 3. Am I leaving any employer benefits on the table? For pension participants, confirm the exact vesting and accrual dates. Some pensions increase meaningfully with one more year of service, or even one more month. For employees with pensions, the best month to retire may be driven by plan rules, not preferences. Retiring 1 month too early could mean leaving real money on the table. For 401k participants, check the vesting schedule on any unvested employer match. For anyone with unused PTO or annual leave, confirm the payout rules and whether retiring at month end versus mid-month affects the payout calculation. Here's the honest summary. The best month to retire for most private sector Americans is December, specifically December 31st. Clean tax year boundary, full employer match captured, smooth Medicare transition, maximum 401k contribution year, clean start to a lower income retirement calendar. The best months for federal employees are December 31st, January 10th, May 31st, and October 31st. Dates specifically chosen to align with pay period endings, leave year boundaries, and pension accrual rules that can mean $5,000 to $15,000 in additional lump sum leave payouts. The worst months are any month that creates a healthcare coverage gap, any date that triggers an IRMA surcharge through high final year income, any mid-month date that creates a pension income gap, and any date that leaves unvested employer contributions or pension accruals behind by a matter of weeks. About 60% of retirees regret not planning their retirement timing more carefully. You now have the framework to not be in that 60%. The date you circle on the calendar is not an afterthought. It's a financial decision worth thousands of dollars, in some cases tens of thousands, and it deserves the same deliberate attention you gave to every other part of your retirement plan. Pick it on purpose.